In this video, we're going to be focusing on defining our objectives, understand how to create a good definition, understand what a counterexample is. Alright, for this, there's going to be no vocabulary because you're actually going to be doing the vocabulary, creating the definitions as your assignment for the next day or two, depending on how long it takes you to get through it. So what we need to know is how to make a good definition. So there are really 3 steps in geometry to making a good definition. The first one is to classify. Tell what it is. Is it an angle? Is it a segment? Is it a quadrilateral? So we have to look at what is the basics of what we're talking about. Second, we want to differentiate or show how it's different, how it separates from other things like it. So there are multiple types of angles. How do we take one angle and separate it from another type of angle? The third thing, after you've come up with this definition, is you always want to look for what's called a counterexample, or something that will cause your definition to be wrong. If you can't find one of those, then that means we have a good definition. If we can find a counterexample, that means we need to refine our definition, make it a little bit tighter so there aren't those loopholes, and make it better, essentially. So here's an example of what you'll be doing. In your book, there are words such as this one we're going to look at is actually the first one, which is right angle. And then there are pictures of some things that are representing that shape or that object, and some things that aren't. And we want to make a definition based off of that. So first thing we want to do is classify. We're talking about a right angle. Well, there are a lot of types of angles. So our classification is that we're looking at angles. Second, we want to differentiate it from other angles. So specifically, if you notice, here we've got something smaller than 90 degrees. Here we have something bigger than 90 degrees. Here, both of these angles are 90 degrees, as this little square inside is another way of showing 90 degrees. So in reality, what we're showing here is that 90 degrees is what makes something a right angle. So a right angle is an angle measuring exactly 90 degrees, because we don't want it bigger, we don't want it smaller as shown here. We want it exactly 90 degrees. So this would be our definition. Then we would go ahead and look to try and create angles that are 90 degrees but aren't right angles based off what this is. And we would look for those counterexamples. If we can't find any, then this is a good definition. There really aren't for this situation, but I do want to get into a counterexample or explain what a counterexample is exactly. So most of the counterexamples we're going to face will end up being pictures that will try and prove something wrong. But what we're doing is we're looking for a way to make the definition not true. So we're looking for basically a loophole, a place where the definer has left it open that the definition is wrong. If we find a counterexample, so we find something that proves our definition to be wrong, then what we need to do is refine our definition. What refine means is we need to basically we need to redefine it in a way that we don't have that loophole anymore. Once we can't find a counterexample or an example that causes it to not be true, then what we have is a good definition. Alright, good luck on trying to define the things in your book based off of this. If there are any questions, make sure you ask. Thank you.